longest novel ever written is In Search of Lost Time by Marcel Proust. I'm almost done with volume 1 of 7, which is called Swan's Way. And here are 4 things that I found in this work that really surprised me that I think would lend an appeal to a general audience that a lot of people don't really recognize here. What I'm saying is, if you never thought about reading Proust or thought you didn't want to, here are 4 reasons why I think you should. The first thing is, it is very funny. There are parts that are really funny in Proust, and I loved reading the comments from my Moby Dick video from last year. Some people even DM'd me and said, hey, I did not believe you that Moby Dick could be funny, but I'm reading it right now, and there are moments when I'm laughing out loud. So much cleverness and ingenuity throughout this book, and some moments I did find myself laughing out loud. There was one where character's making a point that if you're a certain kind of gentleman, it's not justifiable to be in love with or enamored with someone who's so far beneath you. And the narrator, Marcel, says something, I think it verbatim, it's like, which is kind of like condescending to someone that they would get cholera from something as lowly as a bacteria. So the humor in Proust is a big part that I did not expect. The second one is its relevance to modernity and how we communicate with each other, and think specifically with regard to dating and relationships. Now, if you're someone like me who loves to overthink and ruminate on romantic life, dating, and relationships, then you will love reading Swan's Way and In Search of Lost Time, because the narrator Marcel, in a large chunk of the book called Swan in Love, the titular swan whose street, the way behind his house, is described as a memory from Marcel's childhood. He goes into this long section on Swan's courtship of a woman named Odette, and the mind games that they play with each other, the coquettish distance that they create, the way they pull each other in, push each other away, male manipulator behavior done by both characters, I think is something very relevant to our modern day, that anyone who's experienced going on dates, courting someone in the 2020s will actually find a lot of experience that they relate to in this book, which I think is pretty cool for a classic. The third thing that really surprised me in this work was the extent that very personal feeling, thought patterns, or habits, or ways of seeing the world being explained in ways you've never understood before. I knew this was a book about time and memory and going back through the past, and I say in a previous Proust video that it's a very dense novel of ideas and it's about thinking. That's true, but there are some things here that will just stun you with the depth of his observation, but also how silly they are, how irreverent. One example that I keep thinking of is a character who, some socialite at a party, or I forget who exactly he is, but he's described as having a habit that he can turn on where if someone's telling a joke he thinks is really funny, he'll start smoking his pipe and then he'll start laughing, but to communicate he's laughing so hard he will choke on his own pipe smoke. And so he does this routine and you see it coming. And like, I think we all have little things like that. Like, to fit in socially, to perform your social duties, you go through a certain regimented action or behavior. I think that was so cool to see reproduced here. Finally, something that I did expect going into this book, but that still blew me away, was there are sections here, long and short, of such depth, such beauty, such aesthetic sublimity. It'll be like nothing you've ever read before. And I'm actually not going to get into quotes and exactly what those might be. I want you to discover it for yourself. But I'll just say, if you've ever been in a place that reminds you of your childhood, like where I am right now, and just for a minute you're transported back to being a kid again, you don't really know what happened there, you're curious, a lot of that and so much more is in Swan's Way. I can't wait to continue, first of all, to finish this book, but also to try and move a little further in Proust. I really think you should. Let me know what you think if you do.